Okay, so let's talk about one of modern aviation's greatest and honestly most heartbreaking mysteries. On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 with 239 people on board just vanished. It was supposed to be a totally routine flight, but what happened next turned into the perplexing case of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
Good night, MAS 370. I mean, it doesn't get more routine than that, right? Those were the last words ever heard from the cockpit, spoken by Captain Zahare Ahmad Shah. It was just a standard sign-off as the plane was about to move into Vietnamese airspace. But then, nothing. Just complete and utter silence.
So how did it just vanish without a trace? Well, the flight started out as normally as you can imagine. It took off from Kuala Lumpur, heading to Beijing. You've got 227 passengers, 12 crew members, and for the first 40 minutes or so, everything was going exactly by the book.
And then things just went dark, and it happened so fast. Check out this timeline. At 12:42 a.m., takeoff. By 1:08, it's stable at 35,000 feet. Then at 1:19 a.m., we get that calm goodnight call. But just 2 minutes later, poof, the transponder stops transmitting. It's gone from civilian radar. By 6:32 a.m., when it should have landed in Beijing, it was clear this was a massive emergency.
This kicked off what felt like an impossible search. I mean, where do you even begin? Naturally, they started in the South China Sea, which was the plane's last known position. For days, you had ships and planes from 7 different countries searching, and they found absolutely nothing. Not a single piece of wreckage.
And there is a very good reason why they found nothing there. The first real clue came from military radar, and it was a total shock. It turns out MH370 didn't just fall out of the sky. No, it made a sharp turn, it looked deliberate, and started flying west, back over Malaysia, the complete opposite direction of where it was supposed to be going.
Now, this is where things get a bit technical, but it's super important. The next big clue came from something called a satellite handshake. Even though the plane's main communication gear was off, one system was still sending out these automated signals, or pings, to a satellite. The best way to think about it is like your phone automatically looking for a Wi-Fi network it knows. It's not sending any of your data, it's just saying, hey, I'm here, I'm still on.
And here's the kicker. They detected 7 of these handshakes. 7 of them, 1 an hour. This was absolutely critical because it proved the plane didn't crash right after it disappeared. It kept flying for at least 7 more hours. 7 hours after it went completely dark.
So what do you do with that information? Well, by analyzing those pings, investigators figured out how far the plane was from the satellite when it sent that last, final handshake. This gave them a huge curve of possible locations, what they called the 7th arc, and it was way out in the middle of nowhere, deep in the southern Indian Ocean. The search had moved to one of the most remote spots on the entire planet.
The new search area was immense, and the effort was just staggering. It ended up being the largest, most expensive search in the history of aviation. We're talking $160 million. For 3 years, they used underwater drones to map this huge, unexplored part of the ocean floor. And after all that time, all that money, they called it off. The plane was still gone.
All right, so if they couldn't figure out where it was, the focus shifted to why. What on earth could explain this? Well, 3 main theories started to take shape, each trying to explain the unexplainable. So let's look at the big 3. First up, intentional pilot action. The evidence for this is pretty compelling, right? The turn was done manually, the flight path seems like it was trying to avoid radar, and a similar route was even found on the captain's flight simulator at home. But on the other hand, the pilot was a highly respected veteran, no known mental, family, or financial problems at all. Then there's hijacking. This one got a lot of attention at first because 2 passengers had stolen passports, but it turned out they were likely just asylum seekers, not terrorists, and there's 0 other evidence of a hijacking. And finally, you have the ghost flight theory. This suggests some kind of event, maybe a fire or a rapid decompression, knocked everyone unconscious due to a lack of oxygen, hypoxia. The plane then just flew on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. This explains that long, straight flight south, but it doesn't really explain why someone would have manually turned off the transponder and communication systems in the first place.
After the search was called off, the case just went cold for years. Can you imagine? The families of those 239 people were just left in limbo. But then, out of the blue, a retired aerospace engineer stepped forward, and he had a potential breakthrough using a totally new kind of high-tech clue.
This guy's name is Richard Godfrey,
And he made a pretty incredible claim that he could track the plane's final flight path and pinpoint exactly where it is resting on the bottom of the ocean.
So how in the world did he think he could do that? He used something called WSPR-net technology. Now, stick with me here. It's basically a global network of weak radio signals used by ham radio operators. You can think of it like a massive, invisible net of tripwires covering the globe. The theory is a huge metal object like a plane flying through that net would create a tiny disturbance, a ripple that could be tracked. And that's what he did. After sifting through literally thousands of these radio signals from that night, Godfrey's data pointed to one specific location. And get this, it's right on that seventh arc we talked about, the same place the satellite pings led to. But it's in a really rugged, mountainous part of the seabed that he thinks the previous searches just missed. He believes the wreckage is sitting there, 4 kilometers under the surface.
What makes Godfrey's theory so compelling is that it seems to connect all the dots. His location matches up with ocean current models, which would explain how those 27 confirmed pieces of debris washed up on places like Reunion Island and Madagascar. And maybe most importantly, it takes this impossibly huge search area and shrinks it down to a manageable 40 nautical mile radius.
So, where does that leave us? After more than a decade of false starts and dead ends, we have a new, credible theory. It's backed by a completely new kind of data, and it points to a very specific, very searchable location. It's really the most promising lead we've had in years. So, will this new clue finally be the key to solving the mystery of MH370? The big question now is, will anyone go looking,